Split the vote.
All right, welcome back to a credible, amazing episode of Split the Vote. This is the Ultimate Survivor Superfan podcast, and you can drop the 8, keep the 4, because you are in for an amazing recap. This is such an especially incredible recap because we're joined by such an amazing, incredible person, a dear friend of mine, the purple pants man himself, none other than Brice Izyah. Brice, how you feeling?
I am feeling great. I'm excited to be on Split the Vote with Rob and Tim. I think that you two have done such an incredible job covering this season every week that I listen to it. Some weeks I'll be like, all right, I'm on Rob's side. Next week I'll be like, I don't know what the hell Timmy is talking about. So it is so good to join you two and give my takes. But again, kudos to you on such a great coverage of this season. You guys really kind of found your rhythm. And I'm very proud of you and happy that we are here to talk about Survivor season 48
Yes,
finale.
right. I'm excited too, and of course, we're joined always by my co-host, who's not from Boston, but is still wearing a backwards hat throughout the whole season. Rob, how are you feeling?
I'm good, and thanks, Bryce, for the shout out. Seriously, wouldn't be here without you at all. Appreciate all the support and everything you've given us all season. Super happy to be here. I've had a little bit of an emotional week, but I'm just happy to be here, surrounded by the people I love, and just really appreciate having this chance to come together and talk about one of our favorite shows.
Yes,
Yeah.
and it really couldn't have been any other guests that we would have for this episode. And if we could have you on every episode, we would. But as it's the finale of the season, what other way to beautifully wrap it up than have none other than you, who's given us this opportunity, who's shown up for us, and we have just tried to take this and run with it, and it's become this beautiful thing that we're so thankful to have you be a part of. Also,
It is a pleasure. Also, shout out to Amanda behind the scenes. One thing
yes.
about Amanda, she gonna tell you how you feel. If I'm missing something, Amanda will be like, Bryce, where is this at? So again, shout out to the girl Amanda, who is also a part of Split the Vote. I think I love being a part of y'all group chat, and I love this. I'm excited to get into the episode because I do have thoughts.
Let's get into it. Because listen, we got a winner. Kyle, if you haven't heard already, you shouldn't have been listening because I did not say spoiler warning, but Kyle won Survivor 48. And it makes so much more sense that we're dropping the 8 and keeping the 4 because Kyle, Kyle, to me, it seemed like it was destined. But personally, I'm super proud of Kyle winning. Kyle, I think, is such a solid winner for this season. And played in a really great way and really adapted his game to fit the culture of Survivor 48. What are y'all thoughts on Kyle taking home the win throughout the or at the end of the season?
I think I'll go on record. I wasn't. It's not that I didn't like Kyle because we love Kyle, but at the start of the season, he was having trouble getting up the wall with the ropes. He joined forces with Camilla, and I really thought that Camilla was the driving force of the Kyle and Camilla. But as the episodes tend to go on, the season went on, Kyle really kind of came out of his shell or started revealing more and more about his gameplay. And I think that it was well deserved. And in this new era, I go to say that Kyle is probably in the top 4, if not top 3 winners of the new era because his gameplay was like so great. And I was talking with Survivor News this week where when he made that big move last week in kind of the Shaheen blindside, it was his idea. And it just made me think like in the beginning when Camilla was really like giving all the ideas and running it, it makes me think I think Kyle was downplaying, right? Like, I think
Mhm.
clearly we know Kyle has moves, but I think that he was allowing Camilla to run. And if that's a part of his game, I think that that's again just so excellent, so smart, so strategic, so like precise, knowing when to pull back, knowing when to show up. Like he really did the damn thing. And so again, hats off to Kyle. He was shaking ass all season. And I think he is a well-deserved winner.
I completely agree. I mean, his moves were intentional throughout the season. I really can't think of one moment off the top of my head where I really doubted a move that he was making. I thought everything from his perspective was shared very clearly. Everything was concise. I don't know how many Torchy awards he got in our seasons. We probably have to do a number or a count, but I felt like he was in the running for every single episode just because of his astounding gameplay.
At this point, it shouldn't even be called the Torchy Award. How much y'all was giving it out to Kyle? It should be called the Kyle Award because he really was killing it. Now, Rob, I will go on record. There were some questionable moves in my mind from a viewer from the Camilla Kyle standpoint, right? Because I'm a part of the Camilla-tary. I've been saying I'm a Camilla meter, but I'm a part of the Camilla-tary. Like I'm ready to serve. And
Okay.
there are points in time, right, where I'm like, yes, Camilla. She wants to make these moves to get these people out. And Kyle was like, nah, we'll see if it can happen. And I'm screaming, like, Kyle, what are you doing? But clearly, Kyle has the wherewithal and the foresight to know that, like, yeah, that might be good for Camilla's move, but it's not good for my move. And so that's why I'll push back a little bit on you, Rob, where well, first of all, what do I know? Okay, I'm a third boot. So actually, I shouldn't be saying anything. But there were times that I'm like, make this move, Kyle. Make this big move with Camilla. Get these people out. Like, what are you doing? But clearly, Kyle had a read on the jury, had a read on the people that were out there. And so I'm kind of with you, right? Because part of me was mad because I'm in the Camilla-tary. But yeah, I mean, so just say a little questionable moves from Kyle, but ultimately he got the millie. So I mean, I guess it's not really questionable.
True. And even though Camilla didn't win the million, in my heart, she's still the chameleonaire. Because if I'm in this military army, I'm the lieutenant, I'm the sergeant. Throughout the whole season, I'm like Camilla, 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 Camilla. Because again, her duo with Kyle was just that strong and that powerful, but it was Kyle who took it home in the end. I definitely remember times where was looking at my screen, staring at it, screaming in my head like, Kyle, work with Camilla a little bit more. I know y'all trying to keep it low key, y'all trying to keep it secret, and it did work out in the end when you revealed it, but I just wanted that kind of gameplay so bad. But he knew what he had to do, how he had to play, how he had to adapt to get to the seat that he got at Final Tribal Council and to get the win in the end and come out on top amongst the season of players that surrounded him.
And
I
I,
agree.
I I definitely attribute that to the timing of his moves too, because just like what you guys are saying, like I was on the edge of my seat waiting for him to make a move too, but for his game, for his situation, like what Brice said, it didn't make the most sense because if he made a move at 7 or 8 and he works with like Star, Mary, Camilla, and him, and they're all turning on the original Logi members, well, he was the one that was closest with that bunch of players, and now he's the one flipping on them, and now you have the piranhas that finally get a taste of power. They're gonna like people are going to turn on Kyle, and that's why. Yeah, we're all waiting for that move, but for Kyle's game, for the amount of control and prowess that he had, he made the right timed move in this game.
And even when you are working with a duo, Rob, like, and I'm sure you and Tim can relate to this, like, split the vote. You might want to talk or go one way during an episode, and Tim might want to go another way during an episode, and who ultimately wins, right? I think also the way that Kyle never really said no to Camilla, right? He was like, well, you make it happen and I'll support it. Or like, I'll try to lay the groundwork. And if you can complete it, then cool. And I think that that is really also so pivotal because in so many times when you're working with people, if you have an idea and the person doesn't support it, you'll get bitter. You'll get mad. You'll be like, I'm always doing it this way. It's always their way, right? But it's the way that Kyle finessed it. It's the way that Kyle never really said no to Camilla. It's the way that Kyle was like, well, all right, well, see what happens. And I think that again attributes to his strategic, how smart he is, how he played his hand so well. It's a really but you know that word. It's
Hmm.
astonishing. It's amazing. And I've been saying this and saying this. A lot of people aren't too hot on this season. Or, first of all, shout out to the pre-merge, because the pre-merge is always the best part of any season. And I don't care
Hmm.
what nobody says, fight me. I'm outside. But I think a lot of fans were not happy with the second half of the season. Okay, I'm one of the fans. However, I do believe that this season is better than people are saying it. And I think that on a
Hmm.
rewatch, you know how like these younger kids are discovering Survivor. I think if you binge this season, I think it ranks a lot higher than watching it week to week. Watching it week to week maybe isn't that exciting. But if you do a weekend binge of this season, I really think with the outcome and how we can see different patterns weaved in, you might understand the edit a little more. I really think people will rate this season a lot higher because there was some really great gameplay. Sometimes great gameplay doesn't translate to great TV though, right? Like, and so when you can understand that, I think people will rate it a little higher. Now, I haven't started my rewatch, so I'm kind of still a little bit in the middle, but
Yeah, listen, we got to give it time to soak. You can't just hop right into it right after it just finished and rewatch it just like that. Some things need a little time to season a little bit, put
okay.
it in the refrigerator, let 48 marinate for a couple seasons, and then we can come back and revisit it. And one quick thing I'll say about Kyle's game, if one of the questions that people always ask some of the jury members is like, oh, describe your game as an animal. I'm not going to describe Kyle's game as an animal per se, but if we're looking at the pattern of players and winners we've had, like last season, for example, I'm like, Rachel, that's the opportunist. She took every opportunity that came to her and she made the most of it. Kyle, I think if I were to put him in an archetype, I feel like he's the knight. He's somebody that's not in this king seat where he's getting all the attention. I think that's Joe, who's front and center, made to be this big player, but he's the one that's right beside him, actually running things, actually keeping things in order, actually making stuff happen behind the scenes. And I think that plus his loyalty and sticking beside the people that sticks beside him, I feel like that kind of captures how I would just describe Kyle's game overall and fit it to something that is just like an archetype, I would say.
I'm gonna push back. I don't even see Kyle
Mm.
as the knight, right? I see picture this movie, like the Night movie, like it's set in the castle era, and you have like the king, the queen, and then you have like the knight that's the head of the army, right? That's where I will put Joe. Where I will put
Mm.
Kyle is he didn't want to be into the Night's Watch. He got pushed into the Night's Watch. He's like the younger brother that partied, that kind of like wakes up and shows up to the night watch and he's drunk, but everybody likes him. He has the people love him. But they go to war, and in the middle of the war, the knight, which is Joe, dies or he gets
Mm.
killed. And Kyle is thrusted into this position that he doesn't necessarily want to be in, but the people are like, you got to do what you got to do it. And he's equipped for it. He's built for it. But like, he's not, you know how when you have the night, they're like, order, we need order, this, that. Like, that's not the energy that Kyle gives. Kyle gives is like, we out partying, we having fun. He's like, the people love him. But when thrusted into this position in the movie, he rises to the occasion. Of course, with a couple of blunders, but then he really rises to the occasion, and then he realizes you were the knight the whole time. That's where I see Kyle. So
Mm.
same, similar.
Yeah.
I guess
Yeah.
I kind of see Kyle as like, I know this has a negative connotation, but sort of like the backseat driver of the season, where he he's letting the driver, he's letting Joe and everyone on Loggy kind of do their thing, and he's just pointing out little obstacles on the road that might blunder their alliance, their car altogether. And immediately when he needed to stick his hand over and take the wheel from Joe, he was able to. He was able to hop in that driver's seat and take control of this game. Maybe it was a little earlier than he wanted to, and he didn't always want to like put his hand on the steering wheel just because he didn't want to be the driver of the season, but he was able to operate in full force when needed to.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And
What's the negative connotation of being a backseat driver? Because hello, Tim. Hello, Rob. I don't be liking to drive. I'll sit in the back seat and tell you where to go.
You know,
okay,
I guess if I'm the one driving, I don't want someone telling me what that I'm doing wrong based off of like how I'm seeing the road play it out and everything like that. Like I
But
want you
did
to
they
like tone
die?
down a little
Did
bit.
they die, Rob? Right.
That's a fair
So
point.
tell them to shut up.
right, right. And speaking of somebody who didn't die, the queen herself of the season, arguably the mother is what I like to think of her
Mm.
as, winning this final five immunity. Comeback Camilla literally was at the very end, came out on top through a puzzle. I really feel like with the season, they were like big, strong alliance, big, strong alliance. But whenever it was a puzzle, who won that challenge? I'm just saying they're not beating the stereotype that the athletes, they got a lot of muscle, but maybe not a lot of muscle. But again, shout out to Camilla for winning this immunity at Final Five. I really felt like she needed it and it helped her game out.
I
Yeah, the
agree.
second I saw that puzzle for the challenge pop in, I'm like, okay, well, I don't even have to watch. I could just like go to the bathroom, go get some snacks, fill up my drink, because I know Camilla's winning this challenge. There was no doubt about that. She is the puzzle queen of the season for sure.
Yeah. And I'm not
Absolutely.
saying they not smart because everybody's smart. Everybody has a brain. I'm not saying that, but again, when it came to the puzzle, Camilla killed it. Camilla ate as always. And speaking of eating, Mitch, I feel like everybody got to, at this point, everybody needs like that one sign. If we were to, you know, how, for example, in sign language, people have nicknames that you can use through sign. I really feel like that's Mitch. If I do this, just know I'm talking about Mitch. So, and for the folks who are listening, it's like the chest hit and the finger wave. Him going out fifth, I don't know. I really want to think more just wholly about Mitch's game. And like, I really feel like he was misunderstood. I feel like Mitch was lying in wait. I'm a Hamilton fan, right? He was waiting on that chance, waiting on that opportunity, waiting to get to the end so he could strike and give that speech and really win the jury over in that way. I just feel like it didn't work out to where he wasn't in that room that he needed to be in to make those decisions, to really be at the center of that alliance.
Well, I think he was in the room where it happens when Star and Mary came to him with this opportunity to
Clock
make a
it.
move in this game, and he paused. He didn't take the shot, and I think that's what really cost him. Now, I don't really know how much win equity he had going into the end game. I guess it really would depend on who he sat next to because they saw him as a threat. I don't know. But yeah, I don't know. I think he had a shot and he chose not to take it.
Mm.
I'm with you on that, Rob. I love Mitch. Mitch don't miss. That's my baby boy. And I think that there was an opportunity, like we said, when Mary and Star came about, but he didn't trust them. And he chose to kind of like play the safer route, which again, there is nothing wrong with that at all. I have gone on record many a times to say that like we don't give people enough credit in Survivor on how they place. It's like the winner and then that's it, right? Like, bitch, if you make it fifth out, that's an accomplishment, and it is hard to do. And so again, Mitch but he was fifth, right? Fifth or fourth?
Mm-hmm.
Fifth.
Fifth.
Like again, incredible. However, he kind of fell into the blunder of he lost his power, and Survivor is a game of luck. And I also need for people at home to realize that, like, yeah, you sitting on your couch and be like, what are they doing? I would do that so much better. Yeah, it is a game of strategy. It's a social game, but it also is a game of luck. And the luck was not on Mitch's side. However, Mitch did what he had to do. It's called Survivor, right? Mitch survived. Mitch survived to the point that he could. And that's just the name of the game. I'm with you, though, Tim. I would have loved to see Mitch flip it up. Although you don't trust Mary and a star, you're shooting your shot. You're putting it out there. You're trying to make something happen. And if it blows up in your face, it blows up in your face, but at least you can say you went out fighting. But again, it just kind of was a little lackluster of Mitch, who you're with. You're with the strongest duos of the season, Kyle and Camilla, Joe and Eva. Like, where do you think you're going to fit in? And that's the part that just sucks, where it's just like, what can you really do? So I really got emotional even when Jeff was talking to Mitch at Tribal, essentially like, we know what your fate is. And I think that Mitch handled it really well with class. And again, it's all love. But again, a different season. I was saying this to somebody the other day. I would have loved, and this is like a weird one, but I would have loved to see Mitch on 45. Can you like replace Mitch with a seafood? I think that really kind of like, I'm just saying, like, I think on different seasons, I think we could potentially get different outcomes. Like, for sure, like seeing Mitch on the season 45, or even put Mitch on 41, right? Like, I think that things could be different, but it just didn't work out in his favor. But King Mitch held it down. He was a representation for a lot of different things. And I think we oftentimes this season give a lot of like the awareness to Eva. Well deserved. However, like Mitch was still out there. Mitch was representing a community that does not oftentimes get shown on reality television. Mitch Curry was out there letting them know he a PE teacher. He can shoot the shot, whether if he's shooting it like this or like that, it's gonna go win because Mitch don't miss. So like, I was super proud of Mitch, but again, it was like, Mitch, you should have. Marion Stark was right there, but I digress.
Yeah, I mean, Mitch don't miss, and I really feel like something I think was a miss in some ways, but kind of not, is when Camilla, she was like, okay, Kyle, we can't sit next to each other. And I really feel like her giving him the okay was what messed it up in the end for her. Because it's like, okay, it's final 5 now. We're about to vote out Mitch, but let's wait a second. Let's wait until we see what happens at the final 4. Because if you win final 4 immunity and you're Kyle, I'm like, okay, so like we're taking each other, right? Like we're gonna use that loyalty, we're gonna work together. But then if you lose and I win, that's when I'm like, maybe we can't sit next to each other. I'm trying to like figure out, maximize how I could get to the end, how I could be in this spot. But when Kyle does win Final 4 immunity, some motion, love the challenge. It's like he's gonna take Joe. And again, I just feel like Camilla giving him the okay was what hurt in the end. But I understand it, why she did it.
I mean, I don't know. Go ahead, Rob. Go ahead. Sorry, let me shut up.
No, I was just gonna say that like she just gave up all the leverage she had over Kyle in that moment, and like you said, Tim, it's a wasted opportunity at the end of the day because she had no idea what the challenge was gonna be, how it was gonna play out, and I know like at the end at the reunion when everyone's like, yeah, like we totally would have voted for Camilla over Kyle. I would actually love to talk about that in a second too, just because I don't know if I necessarily saw the same gameplay as well. But what were you gonna say, Brice?
No,
yeah, we gotta pause.
Okay, let's go.
Take that circle back.
Yeah, circle on back to that, Tim, because you didn't see the same gameplay as Camilla as a Kyle.
Well, okay, I think if she was sitting there at the end with Joe and Eva, I definitely agree that Camilla should have been the deserving winner, and I think obviously would have won, right? But I think if Kyle and Camilla would have been right there together, they both gave each other the necessary information needed to survive to the next round. But I think for me as a viewer, and not someone on the jury that doesn't have the personal relationships with them at all. But when I see that Kyle has the relationships with the original Logie members, all of those players that are in that in group, and Camilla's kind of left out, Kyle's the one that brings her in, that gives her the information. When Camilla was pitching her ideas of, hey, let's go for Joe to Kyle, Kyle was the one that put the pause on her game. I think Kyle had more control and better relationships with those in that in group than Camilla. And that's why I think I would have thought Kyle would have beaten Camilla at the end.
All valid points. The thing that I will say in regards to that, of something that you just said, who was in the majority alliance the whole time? Kyle or Camilla?
Kyle.
Okay. Who still got to the end? Kyle and both Camilla. So for me, as somebody that is an underdog in like every sense of the realm when I play Survivor and in life, I think that seeing a brown woman like Camilla out there who the jury and us as viewers are looking at her like she's not even in the know, but yet she's still able to be here. Then when she could get up there and speak and talk about all the things that she did do, her connection with a Kyle, I also think people like a Star, people like a Mary, people like a Chrissy, that might resonate with them. So say like the opposite side of the coin where it's like, yeah, Kyle was in the control seat for the majority of their relationship. However, Camilla was still right there. Camilla was still playing. And I think Camilla at the end could have done a really good job of advocating for herself. I do think at the end, probably it might have went to Kyle, but I don't think it would be such a sparse difference. I think it would be really close. And I could see Camilla potentially taking it. But I definitely think you might not look at it from an aspect of like, yeah, she might not have been in control, but for me, that's even more appealing. Like that's somebody I want to root for is the underdog, even though Kyle is an underdog too. But like when we're giving a Kyle and Camilla, like you see most of the times Camilla with her little turban on with the, when they turn the just or her hood on, just walking around. And then they're talking and she's just like, she's clearly ostracized and not in the majority alliance, but is still able to maneuver, still voted correctly, still won challenges, like, still played the part. So I definitely think it wouldn't just as easily go to Kyle as you think, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's a very fair point, especially when those on the jury were looking for someone to make a move, and then here's Camilla, who is that underdog picture. Yeah, exactly.
And she's trying to make a move with them, right? Like, so again, don't underestimate that relationship. But at the same time, I am a part of the Camilla Terry, but I am mad at Camilla. Right? Like, I love Camilla, but I'm mad at her. Like, when she said, it's so true, when we saw them on the beach and Camilla was like, I do have the opportunity to take Kyle out. I don't want to sit next to Kyle at the end. It's not good for my game. However, I said before I got out here, I'm going to play a cutthroat game, and then emotions. And then you think about the people that you're working with and your connections come in and you're like, I just can't do that. No, do it. Put the knife in his back. Get that $1 million and then figure out the relationship. Like, that's the only, like, I felt like in that essence, Camilla was me. I was Camilla, where it's like, for me, I'm a loyal friend. I'm a ride or die. I'm going to ride for my friends till I die, to the detriment of myself. And so in that moment, I was hoping that Camilla would put herself first and take a Kyle out. Make that move, sis. But again, Survivor is not as easy as you think. And when people sit at home and they're like, oh, I would do this when I get out there, I would do that way. And then all of a sudden, like, emotions kick in and you realize you're a human. You make these connections with people that you never in a million years would have thought of. And now all of a sudden, it's not even $1 million decision. Now it's a moral decision, right? And I think that, like, Jeff was so big on like this season 48, the morals, like we see with like Joe and Eva, which they highlighted, which again was so beautiful. But I think that there were also so many other moral decisions that did not get highlighted enough.
And even just like on the point around the season just being shaped around morals, to pivot, I feel like one of the takeaways, if we all could have something to take away from Survivor 48 before just talking back about the game, I really feel like this season showed me that, or taught me this lesson, that even in the game of Survivor, it's people that'll show up for you. Like we saw Joe show up for
Mm.
Eva during her crisis. Joe showed up for Eva during the Final Four fire making where they were practicing and Eva was having this breakdown. Kyle showing up for Camilla in the way that he could without sacrificing his own game. And I really try to look at Survivor for something that's beyond just like the show that we're seeing, like something that we could take in our life. And I feel like, especially with 48 being a season that some people on the streets, I was one of the people on the streets saying that like maybe it's not the most exciting gameplay seasons. I do still feel like it's something to be learned or something that we could maybe like think about and apply like in our lives. So I feel like for me to answer the question is that 48, something I'm taking away is that it's people that'll show up for you and it's people that'll care for you.
Right. Look at let's talk a Star.
Yeah.
Star is the epitome of that. Look at her relationship with Cedric. Look at her relationship with Eva. I even say during that pivotal episode, episode 3 or 4, when Eva was having her breakdown, before Joe got there, Star didn't even know what was happening, and Star embraced her.
Yeah.
I would love, because I Star and Mary did both vote for Eva. I would
Mhm.
love to know what Star, like, after Star watches the season, like, you still casting that vote? Because again, and I'm not even mad at Eva, because I was a little hard on Eva. Uh, I'm all over the place, and please let me know. I know to split the vote, but I be talking. But again, back to Star, like, we're Star. I would love to know, after watching the season, do you still cast a vote for Eva? And say what you want about Eva, right? Because I was a bit on the fence of Eva. Like, what is she doing? She's getting all
Mhm.
of these rewards. She's doing all of these things. But like, listen, Eva stayed 10 toes down. Eva is, in my opinion, like, can you play an honest game in Survivor and win or get to the end? I think Eva proved us right. Like, I think that Eva was like so honest, right? That it actually worked to her advantage. Where when she got
Mm.
that clue, when Shaheen was like, Joe, look, Joe. And Joe was like, I'm going back to sleep. Then the next day, if Eva trusts you, like, and if you're in her circle of trust, she's going to deliver the information. And this was like one of the first times in Survivor that we actually got to see, like, being honest helps. But also, what I liked, even though I didn't like sometimes as to who it was with, like, Eva was cutthroat. Like, Eva took that idol. Okay, she ain't never give it back,
She
right?
said, "Thank you."
She said, thank you. And then the first chance she got, she said, we got to get Star out of here. I don't trust her, right? Like, it's like just, and she's a challenge beast, and she is smart and is killing these puzzles. And so I was maybe a little critical on Eva's game, like, oh, you got Daddy Joe protecting you. But in retrospect, hot take, I think Eva protected Joe this game. Like, I think Eva's relationship with Joe kind of shielded Joe more
Mm.
than Joe shield Eva. And I say that to say that Eva getting that, figuring out that puzzle, her working her relationships, her being honest, her being like, hey, I ain't, because I also feel like Eva, in but so many words, maybe a couple episodes ago, was like, I'm here for the team. If I want the team, if the team eat like, if I eat, the team eat. But baby, no, the team. Okay, I'm gonna eat and get $1 million. But I just really feel like she really embodied Survivor and killed it. And I mean, she was well deserving to get to the end. I think she played a great game. I think that it might be underrated because it was so honest, but her honesty was so pure that people trusted it, that people believed in it, and that, like, she came with all the information. And normally that backfires. Normally you come to somebody and I got this, and all of a sudden they're like, oh, she's too powerful. But we know that if Eva gonna make a move, she's gonna tell us, like, if we're in her circle of trust. And so I think that her going out there and authentically being herself really worked for her. I don't think that everyone can't always go out there and authentically be themselves, because some people look at it crazy, because I went out there and I was trying to get people to work and work with me, but they were like, oh, this black gay guy, oh, we can't trust him, he's a liar, right? Like,
Mm.
oh, he's sassy, he's like, and so it doesn't always work. But in Eva's case, I think her just being vulnerable and honest really shed a lot of light, and people were like, oh, we could trust her. And not only can we trust her, like, she's making moves, she's winning idols, she can figure out puzzles, she you could tell that she has watched and played the game of Survivor. So again, I just
Yes.
want to shout out my girl Eva.
Yeah, and shout out Eva, because I even thought like every opportunity Eva had to get an advantage or to go on some kind of trip or journey, she got it. Like the only two exceptions were the idols that were on different beaches. And even the idol that was on her beach that she did not find the beware advantage for, she ended up with through Star gifting it to her. And the uh knowledge is power potential advantage, the boat trip, the final five immunity advantage, almost all of it, actually minus the advantage that Say won at the beginning of the merge, but almost everything went to Eva, and her having that kind of power in the game through these advantages. And I really felt like her final tribal council performance was solid. I
She ate.
really do feel like she held her ground. She brought up something that they didn't know about, and she again delivered information to the jury, was really working it in a way that I didn't know that she was gonna work it. So I agree. Shout out to Eva, especially.
She said, I'm getting a PhD. I'm not about to sit up at this tribal council and have y'all play with me. She really surprised me at that tribal council. I homegirl did her homework. She
Mm-hmm.
was like, y'all can think I'm a goat, but I'm gonna just let y'all know I was feeding the goats. Okay. Eva really surprised me with her tribal council speech and how she spoke about the game and owned her ish and like revealed different stuff. I wasn't expecting that. So I was like, okay, Eva, I'm not mad.
Right. And just to get to like final tribal council, almost in general, but again, Eva versus Camilla, fire making. Camilla goes out, rough, broke my heart. But if I were to jump to final tribal council, let me know if y'all want to talk about fire making. But I really do feel like we're gonna look back at this final tribal council and say that it was pretty solid. Like, I don't think this is one of the worst tribal councils ever. Mind you, I think it's maybe not like super stellar, but it's really solid. I feel like every finalist answered the questions the best they could. I feel like from what we're seeing, that every finalist was sticking to what they know, who they were, and was presenting the facts that it was. Nobody was trying to like overperform. It was no kind of like bad answers necessarily. So all in all, I feel like it was a really solid final tribal council overall, through and through.
Mm, that's how you feel, Rob?
I I don't know. I guess going into it, like kind of like Brice, I was a little underwhelmed, and I thought it would be a lot cleaner of a sweep for Kyle, but Joe and Eva really did surprise me, and it was super engaging because they were very true to themselves, as you said, because they played that very loyal game and they were able to control that narrative that really prevented other players from being able to play like a very flashy game because they had so much control. But when all I was just waiting for Kyle to kind of drop that knowledge that he was the one playing the tricks behind the scenes. So I think while they were like answering the questions to the best like capable like ability, I was just waiting for that one moment that was gonna totally flip final tribal council into Kyle's favor. So like yes, I agree. I think they were definitely able to say everything they could to showcase why they should win the game. But like we were just waiting for that one moment, and everyone's been like, okay, yeah, like we do have a winner right here, right now.
Okay, see, this episode, I'm really with Rob, right? I'm with you. Like, I'm like, drop the bomb, Kyle. Like, and that, my two blunders of the final tribal council was exactly what Rob said. I am at this point a little tipsy in New York, watching this at the Brice and Win 48 finale. And again, shout out to everyone that came through. There were maybe 3 or 4 people that came up to me and said that they love Split the Vote. So shout out to y'all. I was waiting to tell y'all this. So like, but I was with them and I'm like, Kyle is not dropping the hammer, right? And again, And the moment I was having this discussion, I can't remember now, but it was like one of the biggest moves that Kyle and Camilla did, or like the biggest, like Kyle didn't even say it. Like I just felt like, what's going on? However, that also speaks to Kyle as a lawyer. And I feel like he dropped enough of the seed links for the jury to pick up. So sometimes you don't need the big hammer when you have thumbtacks, right? Like
Mm.
if you could put 17 thumbtacks in a poster, I don't need to bop bop a nail in it, right? So that's my one thing. My other thing was with Joe, right? Now, mind you, I love me some Fireman Joe, and I think like, oh, if I could come back. Actually, if I was gonna say like if I could come back and be somebody's kids, it would be Joe. But I also feel like if I got like a D or the teacher called home and was like, hey, Joe, Brice is talking to class, I feel like Joe, I would be on punishment for 6 months. So I don't know. But like Joe is just an amazing father, an amazing person. And I love that. But the thing that I felt like, because we know who Joe is, what he didn't do was, we all could be here. This is Final Tribal, right? Like, and I love Rob, I love Tim, and we all work together. But I'm going to make a case for
Mm-hmm.
me that distinguishes myself between y'all two, right? Like Rob always wearing his hat backwards. I wearing my hat forward. Timmy just got on a shirt, but I put on a jacket. Like, I'm going to jazz it up. And I felt like the one thing that Joe could have said, and again, and it wouldn't have been disrespectful to Eva, but it would have been like, Eva is sitting here on her own merit, but I also had a part in that, right? Like,
Mm.
that selfish narrative to kind of take the jury on this way as to why you should win $1 million. He didn't do that. And mind you, that's not like we said, morals and integrity. That's just not the person that he is. But I feel like that's the type of thing you need to, like, that was the hammer I wanted from Joe. And it's crazy to think, because even in thinking in that manner, bitch, the only person who dropped the hammer was Eva. Eva was dropping the hammers in her final speech. And so I was just like, Joe and Kyle, what are y'all doing a little bit? But much love and much respect. But I just felt like, because sometimes I look at Joe like Tony from my season, right? Where
Mm-hmm.
like less chaotic than a Tony, but like Joe was a driving force. Anytime somebody wanted to make a move, anytime a big move, anytime like a huge, any big moves in this game came from like a Joe putting David out to pasture, of them convincing Joe that Shaheed needed to go. Like all of the big moves came from Big Daddy Joe. And I wanted Big Daddy Joe to sit on the throne that said Big Daddy Joe. And I wanted Big Daddy Joe to say, I'm your Big Daddy Joe. And that's why I'm here. And I know that could rub some people the wrong way, but it's like, shit, own it. But again, that's why we love Big Daddy Joe, is because Big Daddy Joe ain't never gonna say he Big Daddy Joe. We the kids is gonna say he's Big Daddy Joe.
Yeah, and that's
I
that humbleness.
Mhm.
That's that, like I'm gonna just be me. Y'all gonna know who I am, but I'm gonna just keep it on the low, keep it humble. But like Chrissy said, and shout out to Chrissy, because Chrissy was waking it up from the
Okay.
jury. Bring her back, honestly. But she's like, only one of yous can win. She said it, I don't know what
And
accent
I need to
that
know which
is.
one, and I need to know why.
Exactly. It's like this is the time to differentiate yourself, like you said. And again, the Joe and Eva, yes, y'all a duo, but like we listen,
But
Ghost
listen,
Island already established we ain't doing co-winners.
mm,
So like only one person can win. Dole.
yeah, no, right. Chrissy said, "Wake it up." We know y'all we know y'all the strongest duo out here. Oh, Camilla said, not too much on that, but right, like, and that's the thing. They didn't do that because again, it goes
Mhm.
back to what I was saying about emotions, about like, again, I feel like I was saying to this on Survivor News the other day that if Joe had another number one that wasn't Eva, right, his game would be so much more different, because Joe and Eva weren't just number one. Like Joe looked at Eva, and again, I'm so like you said, even in Survivor, the universe will send you what you need, or a protector. Like Joe looked at Eva like his daughter. right? Like
Mhm.
when Joe says that he would die for Eva, oh, I believe it, right? And so it's like when you put that dynamic into it, a father is never going to do that to a daughter. And also think about like a daughter to a father. Like I'm never going to like, but that ain't, but he everybody Big Daddy Joe. Like I like so
Yeah.
that again, and when you think about it, it is so interesting the dynamics in relationships where it's like for y'all to when you ever go out there, right? Like don't make your mom or don't make your uncle or your little sister your number one because then like those dynamics, you want your number one to be cool, but cool enough that I could punch you in the face and run and get to the fit. Like, you know what I mean? Like you
Yeah.
like it just is so interesting when you think about like the duos. And also it just, makes you think sometimes you need a little Jesse Lopez in your veins. Just not the whole Jesse Lopez, because Jesse a lot, but just a little. But again, it also just makes you love and respect Joe and Eva's relationship because it's like, hey, I wouldn't be here without him. He wouldn't be here without me. And what is understood doesn't need to be spoken. But
Mm.
baby, when I want $1 million, I'm gonna speak up, bitch. Okay. Bitch. So yeah.
Rob, I really feel like I thought you had a take. You had thoughts on this Joe Eva, on this alliance, on this whole situation. But if
Oh
not, I
yeah.
really feel like
No, we gonna hear. I want to hear it,
yeah,
Rob.
yeah.
Don't let me just. My coffee's kicking in, so like I'm getting hyper. You can tell me to shut up. I want to hear what you got to say,
No,
Rob.
honestly, I agree with everything you're saying because I'm waiting for them to take the gloves off too and start maybe not throwing jabs at each other because that's not the way they play, but just be like a yes and this is what I did, right?
Mhm.
And like I just felt like I was seeing molds of Ken from season 33 in Joe as more and more of the season progresses because he was playing for his daughter.
Mm.
And when he wanted to play that really loyal game and everything. And yeah, he was winning challenges just like Joe. And I think they're two kind of comparable players but Joe had the control, Joe had the power, whereas Ken didn't early in the game. And we kind of see Joe mold into that form of Ken, and that is just not a recipe for winning success because in the new era of Survivor, like people want to know why you are the best player. Like what did you do to win? And you gotta go after each other because that's just the spot that they're in. And I totally get that that's not their personality. They want to be humble about their gameplay. You just can't do that if you want to win $1 million for your family, for your children.
Knock knock.
Now, okay. Ooh, who there?
Who's there?
David being camp. But also who's there is I feel like the end of season 1 of Split the Vote is at the door too. But like just to talk about David, I really feel like David is camp. I feel like I misunderstood him where he just like the joke, like you're smoldering, you're mewing is what we say he was doing the whole time. And for him to come at the end with a joke, I thought was pretty funny. But I really do feel like, yeah, like just thinking about the season overall was pretty good.
When people were I had the opportunity to know David pretty well. David is in a happy new place. He has a new girlfriend. Shout out to Brice Izyah because I'm the best wingman out there. So I introduced David to his new now girlfriend. But I met David, I want to say like 4 times, spent a comparable amount of time with David. And I think like I expected when I met David, just what he looks like, I expected him to be certain type of way. But
Hmm.
I think if you go back and watch the first episode and David talks about like who he is and like, just give me a compliment, like, that's who David is. Also, David don't watch no Survivor, right? Like, and mind you, he only watched the last 3 seasons of Survivor. Like, he's not a Survivor fan, right? And so, again, when people were giving him slack, like, why don't the big guys ever win? David, you gotta, David, go back to the 30s, go back to the 20s, go back to the first 10 seasons, right? Like, but again, take that into consideration. Like, he just don't know. And so, like, David wanting to stand up for the big guys, I think is hilarious. But also, it's like, He's somebody that don't know Survivor. And so he's coming in and he's seen the last 3 seasons. And like, this is what he wants to stand up for. I thought David was hilarious. Mind you, I didn't have to live out there with him, but I always think it's players like a David, it's players like a Cody. It's these players that don't watch the game, but have this like real life. They bring their life into it that I always think it makes it so much more interesting because again, I wasn't mad at what a David was trying to say and do and move. I also felt like David operated like the king. So I don't think that would have been good for him towards the end. But I think it could have shook it up a little bit. But yeah, no, David is hilarious. Okay. Who needs just 2 nipples? 4 is always better. Okay.
I think that's such a great point, just what he adds to a cast, because like Survivor is never going to cast a bunch of players who are just strategic, like people who see that game in that lens. You have to bring in
season 43, but
oh, that's actually a really good shout. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Like
a great
they
point.
all were
yeah.
strategic, all like, and we also kind of felt the same way in season 43, where like nobody wanted to make moves. And then like when somebody would make a move to turn against on some people, then they would still go back and vote with the same people that just voted against them. Again, I think season 43 is somewhat similar to that because they all were smart. They all were thinking 7 steps ahead and not really making the moves that we would want to see. And then when moves would happen and someone has turned against you, and now the next vote, okay, now come on, Janine, let's get them out. And then you still go back and vote with the same people that just voted against you. But anyway, sorry.
I don't even know what I was about to say, honestly, because you need
bad.
no, that's fine. Like I really love how players, like when they are strategic like that, when you have that cast, they're able to reshuffle the deck every single vote. Like you gotta leave the past in the past and focus on that next vote. And I mean that's the Survivor I love to watch too, just because it keeps players in a spot where they have to be adaptable and flexible to every situation that just prevents them.
So, question for y'all. Any other thoughts about this finale episode of Survivor 48? You feel like we didn't cover or you want to touch on just overall in general? You know how they say in church, they be like, all hearts and minds satisfied. You know, it's how they say. I don't know, Rob, have you ever been to like a specifically a Black Southern church, but that's how they do it. I want to make sure all hearts and minds satisfied here in thinking and talking about 48.
Yes and no. I want to go back to Big Daddy Joe, right? Because I don't know if y'all seen the Reddits and all of it. You know, it's alleged that Joe potentially will be on 50. That's literally last night. My phone was blowing up. You know, Reddit, all Survivor winners just like posted this potential 50 list that looks kind of credible. And mind you, I was a little like, I don't know how I'm gonna feel about it. But if that list is somewhat accurate, bitch, sign me up. Okay. Kristen Yubicki, Angelina.
Okay.
D, Charlie. Anyway, but I am so curious with a Joe, right? And we see how he had played this season, right? Honor, integrity. Like, I'm worried for him on this new season because this is the last season that the potential season 50 will see. And they know how he plays, right? And so it might work for him. Because also potentially on that list was Rick Devens. So I could see him in a Rick Devens. Like, so I just say all of that to say, I know Joe is online. I know he reads what people says. So I'm so curious if that rumor cast is true. I am so interested to see how a Joe plays. If it will be somewhat similar. I also think in the cast that I've seen, I don't see anybody that's going to be his daughter per se, right? So it's like now you got free game to It's open. So I'm just curious to see like what type of game that he will play. And again, with these more seasoned players, it will be very interesting. Also, I think Jonathan Young was alleged on there. So I could see him and the Jonathan Young, my man. Ozzy was potentially on there. So I'm curious to see just again, when you have these big flashy players and it's the last season that they got to see, I almost feel like it puts them at a disadvantage because people feel like you're a shining bright star. But in this season, everybody's a returning player. But just curious to know your thoughts on that, potentially of the game that he played and going into like season 50. What do you think, Tim, Rob,
Yeah.
how it could be perceived?
Joe has to flip the script. I know that who Joe is as a person outside the game was so important in how he played the game in 48. But potentially, if he is on 50, it's like instead of protecting somebody else, you got to protect yourself. You know how they say the grandmama is the baby? It's like the father got to be the son. Like Joe, you got to look out for yourself. If especially amongst this cast of people who've played before, who you're fresh on their mind, who you're someone who might be coming into the picture perceived as like, oh, the new kid on the block, or like so many different factors that might be stacked against a player like a Joe going into 50, where it's like you have to go hard. And that might look like dabbling in a little bit of backstabbing, a little bit of lying. You know, it's like it's not who you is outside the game, but when I'm put into the lion's den and it's me or the lion, I'm gonna pick me. And if I gotta throw dirt in the lion eyes to survive, I'm gonna throw dirt in the lion's eyes
And like
because I'm
also
not gonna be
using
lion food.
right. And also using the fact that like they just seen your season. They know that you are the honor and integrity guy. So use that to your advantage. And like like be the front facing of that, but then also be the liar. Be like not a cheater, but like you know what I mean? Like throw him off a little bit. I don't know, but I'm curious and would be excited to see him play again if it is true. Rob, what you think?
Well, I think that like generally speaking, I think it's very hard for people to change. And in the game of Survivor, when you're stripped down to nothing, just like who you are as a person, you're going to fall back on all of your years experience and you're going to be who you are in that moment. So, as much as you want to change your game, it's very hard to make a complete 180. Now, with that being said, the one thing that players always remember when they are playing for a second time is when they had an opportunity, when they were about to take a risk and they didn't take it. So I think players are more compelled the second time, the third time around to make those changes because they've already felt what it's like to lose and they know that feeling. So now they want to take a shot to win. So I could definitely see a player like Joe who was kind of risk averse, didn't make a lot of big swings, be a player to try and push that agenda. But at the same side, like on the other side of the coin, maybe just like what you were just alluding to, Brice, how he should be able to try to use that perception of him to his benefit of, look, I am that loyal player. This is who I am. I'm not going to change. But then, you know, in confessionals and everything, just be like, no, like I'm here to like I showed my girls this is how like you can play the game and win. I got a vote at the end at Final Tribal Council of my first season, and now I'm gonna play a game for me, and it's gonna be lying, cheating, backstabbing, and that's okay too because you've already proven to yourself that you can play one way. Now play to win the second time around. Come on, bring down that hammer. Like you gotta.
Absolutely. Uh
Well,
A-
it's
Any well, I ain't done yet. Well, because
oh,
Rob giving out good advice. Um, any advice for me on a work retreat that I'm taking in a couple of weeks, Rob?
I don't want to give everyone who's watching the advice, so maybe after we can
Okay.
go over some. How about
you,
that?
you know,
Yeah.
well, if it's a person like Brice who going on a work retreat, it's like, it's let me think. I'm like dot dot dot. Hmm. Go
I'm gonna
for it.
just give them hell. It's
Give them
fine. Yeah,
hell.
give them
Like
hell.
make sure the coworkers know that we on this retreat together, but only one of us gonna get the promotion, and you got to get that promotion. So
Yes.
the only thing we circling back to is the letters that I'm writing on my check when I sign it and cash it. Okay.
Okay.
Exactly.
Good advice. Good advice. Rob, do you cook?
I don't know. Do I? I
What's
don't
the
know.
last time you cooked?
I feel like I'm like a habitual like meal planner where I'll make like one food for the last like for the next 5 days of the week.
That's how I am.
Yeah.
So what you make?
Yeah, I guess the last thing I made was this chicken rice, spinach, yogurt, chicken broth bowl that I'll bring to work. Oh, it's full of protein and it's healthy. Come on.
Okay, you had me up into the yogurt.
Oh
But
no, it adds it. No, it's you can't
You
forget the
put the
yogurt.
yogurt with the wait. Yogurt with
Okay.
the chicken in
and
the
rice.
rice.
Mm-hmm.
The
Okay,
texture,
so
I'm gonna lock
imagine
you
like
up.
a bowl this big, right? You add 3 tablespoons of rice, okay?
Okay.
Then you throw all
Cooked or
that chicken
uncooked? Or I'm assuming it's cooked.
uncooked. No, so
Okay, uncooked.
you bake
Okay.
this all
Oh,
together,
okay,
okay?
okay, okay.
Okay.
All right, so you get 3 tablespoons of rice, put it all in the bowl. Then you
Brown
get the
rice, jasmine, white.
whatever you like. I guess
Okay.
I normally go white rice and everything, but yeah, add that chicken broth. Then I'll throw some spinach on top of it, and then I'll get some cherry tomatoes, cut those up,
Oh,
get
okay.
some yogurt, get that chicken. You got to season it, of course,
Oh,
right?
now that's what I
And
now
then
that's what I was getting to, Rob. Take us through that process. What you season your chicken with?
well, it's definitely difficult when you are like for this meal when you
Mm-hmm.
have yogurt, you have tomatoes and everything. So always go with the salt and pepper. Classic white guy thing, I guess. Right? So
Is that it?
well, for that meal, yes.
Okay, but in general, if you was making a little grilled chicken on your
Okay,
stove.
if I'm doing grilled chicken, I'm doing salt, pepper, onion powder, get some
Okay.
what's it? What do you eat sushi with? What do you dip that
Uh,
Chopsticks,
in?
soy sauce,
avocado.
Worcestershire sauce,
Soy sauce. How am I
soy
gonna
Oh,
get
soy
sauce.
that?
sauce.
Yeah,
Okay,
yes, that's my favorite chicken blend, and then let that
that's
marinate
it.
for 24 hours. Well, that.
Oh,
What should I be adding to it? Tell me more.
so
Tell
I
me
mean,
more.
one, you need garlic powder. Garlic powder should just be in
Mm,
everything. We just add a little garlic powder, then a little paprika. It don't really do
mm.
nothing, but give it a little color.
Mm-hmm.
Little Lowry's, little seasoning salt. If you don't have Lowry's, sprinkle of Old Bay, and then
Tony
just
Chachere's
uh,
even.
okay, and then just go to your cabinet, eating meat. Just pick something. Could be cinnamon. Just pop it in there. That just.
Okay.
But okay. Just was curious, Rob.
Okay. Yeah. Well, no, I'm taking notes. You were just taking notes, and I got my notepad out right here on my phone, right here. So I'm gonna just
Okay.
jot that down after the episode. Add that to my
Yeah.
repertoire.
Do that for with next time you and your girlfriend doing a little date in. Do that. She gonna be like, Rob. She gonna say Robert. What's in this chicken? Okay.
Well, if she's a vegetarian, so she's eating
Oh,
chicken. I think she's gonna throw that
tofu.
back on my face. But
Tofu.
Wasn't Marissa cooking salmon one time?
oh, don't even get me started on that. Oh, one time,
Wait, no, we're not coming from Marissa. Listen, that's my listen. I go to war. That's my girl.
So the salmon wasn't good.
oh, it
Rob?
was. She cooked it.
Oh.
Not too long, not enough, not long enough, and
it was missing
still
the
frozen
yogurt.
in the middle.
That's all. She ain't throw the yogurt in there, Rob. That's you got to teach her. Just a little
Oh
stuff.
my gosh. But shout out to my girlfriend too. We just celebrated our 2-year anniversary
Oh,
yesterday. So
wow. Congratulations.
thank you.
Period. You know what else is a celebration? This podcast, because it's a celebration of season 1 of Split the Vote. Again, we said it earlier, Brice. I'm just super thankful. You know, we like this, like, super close, and this has been so much fun to be able to talk about Survivor, to be here. And so shout out to you, shout out to the posse, shout out to everything Purple Pants till it's backwards. So I'm super thankful, and I couldn't say anything else, and I wouldn't want to be anywhere else except here.
Well, I'm so grateful. If we're really locked in, you know exactly what I'm waiting for.
All right. Well, it's been Tim,
It's been Rob.
It's been Brian. Rob, whenever I edit these podcasts, I always have to text Timmy because I was like, I know you're the hype one behind the it's been Rob. Because Rob, when I say it's always like a 45-second delay for you, because like Timmy just be busting it out of nowhere. Timmy be like, it's been Timmy. And Rob, like the way I crack up. So I have been waiting for my moments. And so I love that. So, and then don't we be like, it's been split the vote.
It's been split the vote.
Split the vote. It's the Purple Pants Podcast. You better listen in public, might make your stomach hurt. Ooh. It's the Purple Pants Podcast. You're trying to unwind. You better get that box wine. It's the Purple Pants Podcast. You're trying to get your snack. You better hurry right back, though. It's the Purple Pants. It's the Purple Pants.